All right, so thank you, Professor Kingan, for the kind words. And on behalf of the Prime cohort of 2019, I would officially like to welcome you all to our final presentations. So thank you all so much for coming. So today I'm going to be talking to you about my company, B.I.S. in Sport Technologies, and our first product, which is Arvonne, a virtual athletic trainer aimed at reducing the risk of injury for high school and middle school athletes. So, as Professor Kingan mentioned, my name is Khobi. I'm really experienced in this space. I've been playing basketball almost my entire life. I played in middle school, high school, I played at the collegiate level, and I was fortunate enough to play professionally for around 4 years. I played in Germany for a few years, and then I played in the Middle East. And throughout my career, I've been plagued with injuries, and so the most serious injury I faced was an ACL injury. And so after facing the injury, I just started noticing them all over the place. So some of my favorite athletes were plagued with the injury, and then I noticed the trend of youth sports athletes, especially young girl soccer players. There was almost like an ACL injury epidemic. And so with that in mind, I kind of shifted my focus a little bit and decided to go to graduate school. And as Professor Kingan mentioned, this year I've really been exploring this opportunity space around sports injury prevention, technology, and underserved communities. And so I've really been just analyzing that industry, the things that are going on here and the trends, and trying to find an opportunity within this space. And so that's led me to found the company, B.I.S. in Sport Technologies, and our vision is to be a world leader in integrating emerging technologies for health and fitness solutions. And what I'm really proud about is the social mission that we have, which is to use sports and technology to help those in underserved communities. And so when you analyze this fitness tech space, there are 4 big hurdles that you have to overcome, 4 that I think are most important. So the first is this dynamic between nerds and jocks, right? So you have to figure out a way to present this science to athletes in a way that they're going to understand and find applicable and relatable. The second is large competitors. So the companies that have done it, they have customer loyalty now, and they have customer trust. And so how do you navigate that dynamic? And then athletes and injury. So there's a culture around athletics that if you talk about injury, you talk about pain, it's perceived as a weakness. And so really have to figure out a way to extract information from athletes in a way that they feel comfortable with. And then product aesthetics. So the classic example is sneakers, right? Less of the product is about functionality. A lot of it is about the look, how it makes you feel, to give you confidence while you play. So whatever product I develop has to address all 4 of these hurdles. And so that's caused me to take a lean startup strategy. And so, as I mentioned, it's really difficult to know exactly what the perfect product is going to be with all of those different hurdles. And so the product and the opportunity that I'm going to talk to you about today really allows me to gain more insight into this opportunity space, and from that insight, help shape future product development and really develop that perfect product to address all the customer needs. And so the opportunity space that I'm really interested in, the initial opportunity that I see is in youth sports. So in a 2017 Time article, the youth sports industry was valued at $15.3 billion, 55% increase since 2010. A lot of that increase is due to professional sports. There's been an increase in media coverage. But what also has caused that is a lot more parents are investing money in their kids at a young age, hoping that they'll earn an athletic scholarship, maybe play professionally. And so they pay more for training, they'll pay more for equipment, they pay a lot for travel, youth travel teams. And so this growth has led to a lot more youth sport injuries. And so when you specialize your kid very early on in terms of hoping that they earn an athletic scholarship, what happens is they end up playing a year or playing a sport year-round, and they don't get the break that they might have gotten a decade ago when they would play baseball and football and soccer. They only play one sport, right? And coupled with that is the lack of knowledge by the youth sport coaches. So normally a youth sports coach, I don't know if anyone here has ever been a youth sports coach, you're normally a volunteer. not really required to have any training in terms of what you need to do to prevent injury. And so that lack of preventative knowledge, along with this early sports specialization, has led to a growth in youth sport injuries. And so with that and addressing all this, I'd like to introduce you to our first product, which is Arvonne. And Arvonne is a virtual athletic trainer for youth sports. So what I've done is coupled wearable systems as well as an app. And combining these will provide youth sports or young athletes and coaches and parents the information that they need to prevent an injury, give them the tools that they need, exercises that they need to prevent injury. And so what does that look like? How will it work? And so if you were an athlete, you would get the Arvonne system, you would log on, and then you would play, and you would train, and you would practice. And then after your practice, you would get a reading on your activity level, and then we'd also ask you some questions. What symptoms are you feeling? What's your pain level? And then we'd give you suggestions. And what I really want to highlight here are if I can get the clicker to work, the share with coach and the symptom logging. And so symptom logging will really give us a way to understand if the system's working. So week 1, if a child's feeling knee pain, week 10, we'll be able to know how much knee pain they're feeling versus week 1, and we'll be able to see how effective the product's been. Then on top of that, they'll be able to share this with a coach. So as I mentioned, there's this problem about talking about injury in athletics, right? And giving athletes a way to share that information with a coach in a digital platform. So many the youth right now, they like digital apps. They feel more comfortable texting than maybe having a face-to-face conversation. That's even amplified in sports. And so by giving them the ability to share that information with a coach is one of the features that I think we're really excited about. And in addition, I hope that one day these videos will be your favorite athlete, so maybe a famous soccer player, favorite basketball player, to really give young kids a compelling way to prevent injuries. And so how are we different? To be honest, the programs, the youth sport programs, the workout programs that show you how to reduce injury, they're out there. There's nothing, I haven't invented any of the workouts, I haven't done any of the research, all of that's out there, but what we have done is digitalize it. So as I mentioned before, kids, they like screens. They like to receive the information from a screen. They trust and they like to communicate via screen. And so what we've really done is take all this information that is in a book or sometimes just held within an athletic trainer, and we've digitalized it, right, and put it in a compelling format for children. And so here's the market. As I mentioned, the youth sports industry is around $15 billion, but we're targeting middle and high school athletes, so that shrinks it a little bit. So the age range we're looking at is around 12 to 17, and that gives us about 3.2 total addressable market. And here's a graph showing the average family spending on youth sports. And so over 20% of families are spending over $10,000 a year on youth sports. But that's not really our target market. So my idea is if you can afford to spend $10,000 a year on youth sports, you can probably afford to hire a personal trainer. So we're really targeting that 60% demographic who show that they want their kids to be great at youth sports, but they might not have the financial resources to really hire an athletic trainer. And so in terms of a pricing initial business model, this is still in the lean startup space and still a very, very much an idea right now, but we're looking at a hardware and software package. So we would sell existing hardware that's out there for a small profit margin, and then we'd offer parents an upgrade for a price around $100 a year. And with that upgrade, they'll be able to share that information with the coach. They'll get access to videos, custom workouts, and then in addition, to address the social mission, with that $100 upgrade that you pay, a small portion of it will go to donating one of these systems to an athlete in an underserved community, right? So what the research also shows is kids in these remote and rural areas, they're more likely to have a serious athletic injury just because they don't have the same athletic training staff as a kid with more access and more resources. And so we really hope to put these systems an Arvonne system in the hands of kids from underserved communities. So here are the milestones that I'm looking at right now. As I mentioned, this is a lean startup, so we're trying to move as quickly as possible. End of the summer, I hope to have a video on Kickstarter, and then by May of next year, we hope to have around 130 athletes registered with the system. And from that, we can decide whether this has been working, whether we need to pivot, or whether we can continue with this current business model. And so, as Professor King had mentioned as well, I've been working on this venture by myself primarily the entire year, but I've had a lot of support. So not only have I had peers from Brown and from undergrad to help me, I've got a great family who came out and showed love today, so I want to thank you guys for coming. So I've had a lot of support throughout the year, and I know how important it is to have a team when it comes to starting a venture. And so that's probably my initial objective, is to just find people that are passionate about it and that I can trust and rely on to help me move this forward. So in closing, I would like to thank everyone for coming, listening to this presentation. I tore my ACL around 5 years ago, and it's just been something that's always gotten to me, and injury prevention has been something that I've been working on constantly and haven't been able to let go of over the last 5 years. So I'm really passionate about trying to just reduce as many preventative injuries as I can, and I would love any help that you guys would be willing to give me. So with that, I'd like to say thank you and open the floor to any questions.
Okay, we have time for one, maybe two questions.
Okay.
Yep. Nick?
Yeah, so I take your target market in the presentation is the athletes themselves, but have you considered targeting the remote athletic coaches or trainers that are trying to do basically scheduling one-on-one training sessions and using this potential product as a way to scale and grow their businesses? So I'll give you an example. In the running community, a lot of runners hire these running coaches that help them train for a marathon. So maybe this could be a great tool for the actual coaching community themselves to manage many athletes. Just a thought.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's a great thought. I mean, when I was thinking through the project, I initially went to a lot of athletic trainers and tried to get them involved. But the problem with that is, when you put these systems in the hands of an athletic trainer, they're the ones that end up deciphering the information and then suggesting to the athlete what they should do. And so when you deal with children, it's often, and parents, we really wanted to just give a really, really easy way for them to get access to some of these informational videos to help streamline that process a little bit. But that's definitely a good market to explore, so thank you for that.
And the last one, last question, Pat?
Khobi, interesting, thank you.
Thank you.
A question maybe to think about. Right now you combine hardware and software, as you described it. I'm not sure I quite get what the hardware is, but as you think about your MVP and first-time product, I would ask the question of to what extent could the athlete be inputting into the app enough information where you could add a valuable service to their coach and to themselves just without an extra hardware piece. So
Okay.
just something.
All right, okay, thank you.
Maybe talk to Pat a bit more about that idea at the break.
Okay.
Okay, let's thank Khobi one more time.